but seriously. Paul wrote most of the dialogue for everybody up here tonight, and he's a brilliant writer. And we went once to what was that man's name that we went to and we had to fight? The producer, the Bill, Sheldon Leonard. We walked in his office. We was there for an hour together, and Sheldon Leonard picked our brains, and he said, "Thank you, and you can leave now." And I asked for the money, and Paul said, "Don't do that. Don't get us in no trouble now." I threatened to kick his ass, and Paul tried to join him. But we're dear friends, and this is all in fun. Next, just don't tell him about Merkabah. Next, I move. Paul was with me once when I first fucked my first faggot. And he's been holding that over my head for 2 years. I fucked a faggot. I just want to say it now so nobody else can tell. I liked it. I would have married him, but he had to go away and get an operation. I'd like to move now, Paul, if you don't mind. to move to the other end to a white person who I give less than a shit about.
So we can see, when we started to get into this business and started to make money, and it's always that same thing people talk about when you get into the subject. When you get to a certain level, things change. You start making a certain amount of money, things change. You got to go left, you got to go right. Either you got to go with the gay stuff or you got to go with the Satan worship stuff. You got to pick a direction to go if you want to get to a certain level or stay, where you are. And this is the thing that we have been seeing. And there has been a lot of people who talked about the gay boule. Steve Coakley kills that. Show a video in a second. And it's a lot of things you pick up on when you start examining, this whole boule and what's taking place within it and how big it is. I mean, when you start noticing the people who are involved in it and that these people have meetings, they have a lot of meetings here in Philadelphia, by the way. And these are people who are prominent, businessmen and scholars, people who have graduated from universities and, fraternities, real well-known fraternities. And this is what happens. You have these corporations or this secret society bring them in because they know they're going to be successful, and they use their success, to destroy our image and to basically control what takes place and what happens in the African American community. We know that's what Al Sharpton does. We know Jesse Jackson. This is what they are all about, controlling us. When something goes down, they come out to make sure that we don't go the right direction. They want to make sure we go the wrong direction. We do the wrong thing. And I was speaking with somebody who was talking about the Million Man March. I believe it was my friend Haru. And the whole thing is, you got to think about it. And the Million Man March, if we are supposed to be such angry black people, and we're supposed to be so violent and going through all these things, and they claim we are just not stable. Something is wrong with us. We are violent. You just seen them broadcast all of this stuff on TV about the riots after Freddie Gray and the riots after in Ferguson, and we're supposed to have been rioting and destroying property. If we was doing all of this, right, if this was the case, we're supposed to be so negative. And I believe it was my friend Alicia who I was talking to about this, by the way. Shout out to Alicia. If we're supposed to be so violent, then why would they allow us to have a Million Man March? I mean, think about that. Are we supposed to be so dangerous? We're supposed to be so violent. And, we're supposed to have been rioting and destroying communities. Why would they allow us to have a Million Man March when you have a bunch of black people march in Washington, to march and to talk about them and how they are oppressing us? Why would they allow that? Why would they allow that to happen? I mean, the message that has to be put out at something like that has to be geared towards their agenda, because it's the only way they will allow it to happen. And as I talked about before, you have to understand this agenda that the media has been pumping up of black versus white and everything like that is a part of their agenda. The media is bombarded, they flood it with anything racial that takes place, because they want this race war to kind of grow and escalate. And listen, I'm gonna tell you from experience, when I came back to Philly, I'm shocked at what I've seen. I'm shocked at how diverse West Philly has become or is becoming, and how I'm seeing so many. I mean, I was in a Chinese store at like 11 o'clock, and I go in a Chinese store, and it's white people in the Chinese store. It's not a good neighborhood, not a safe neighborhood, I should say, but they in there. And I'm like, okay, they probably stopped by, drove up, wanted to get stuff from the store real fast, and then they're going to be out. But then this is like the second day when I came home. I haven't been here in about 3 years. So I'm noticing, as the days go on, it's, a bunch of white people here and, Asian people in this community. And it's like, what? Never thought I would ever see the day. When I went to my supermarket I used to go to, always black people in there all the time, going there, diverse, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. I'm like, what the fuck? And obviously here, I'm gonna tell you, if somebody else in Philly has seen different, let me know. I have not seen no kind of racial prejudice or issues at all here in Philly. If you start paying attention to television, even I start noticing here, and I was talking about this before about how the commercials we had over there in Sweden you would never see in America. I'm starting to see those commercials now, and it seemed like it's an effort on the part of some people to kind of put out a better image of African Americans. But at the same time, and that's probably a private agenda, not a part, a private a company's agenda to try to advertise more. People starting to take more note of the buying power of African Americans. It's probably, the main thing. But as I was saying, their focus is to, of course, drive us apart or drive in an argument between black and white. And this is why you're seeing this whole effort to talk about any kind of racial inequality that happens in America. But you have to really pay attention to stuff like, we so violent. Are we supposed to be rioting and doing all kinds of crazy things and supposed to be a bunch of angry black people? Why the hell would you let us march on Washington and have a Million Man March if it wasn't going to help your agenda? So when we examine this boule and we look at this whole industry that's supposed to be, controlling the image of African Americans and bringing in all prominent African Americans and, making them do things that's going to hurt our image or cause us to not gain any kind of traction as far as, freeing ourselves from oppression, we can see the people who play roles. Now, me personally, I believe one of those people was Bill Cosby. And I believe Bill Cosby was a part of the boule. Maybe he didn't understand what his role was or what have you. But, the rumor is Bill Cosby wanted to start his own network, and he wanted to really promote black unity and put up a lot of good black TV shows out there. We know, of course, Bill Cosby worth almost, $400 billion, almost $500 million. So, 400 million, almost $500 million. He can afford to do so. And he was supposed to do so. And, that's when all these allegations came out about him and, 50 women and all this sex. The story. So this is the type of things that happens when we try to gain some kind of hold in the media. Byron Allen ain't sued for $20 billion for nothing. And this is what's taking place. But you got to understand that it's a whole separate, agenda or a group of people who are African Americans who are set aside to help destroy their own people. And these people have to be exposed. You have to understand what they are about and what's taking place. So I want to go to some videos and have you guys take a look at, Steve Coakley and people just really getting into, the boule. Take a look.
Much of our black press, as much as we like it, has not been honest in talking about this group of black men, for they respect it very highly and never speak negatively against it. We also know that we've had many black people who've been a member of it and have never, ever never broken the code or the creed and spoken to one who was a non-member. Though they pledge and swear that their goal is to represent you, you will have a hard time believing it when they don't even seek to let you know that they who help you are. And so, in July 17th, 1990, July 18th, 1990, the Los Angeles Times did a front page story on the left column. This elite fraternity of black men were described in the article as being influential, as being somewhat like Skull and Bones at Yale. And as it said these things, I was a little in awe, as the others, brothers in African Minds United and the Coalition Against Black Exploitation, as we all were intrigued by the fact that this group of men could have been in existence and we not know about them. And even other brothers and sisters. I remember talking to a brother who had been National Executive Secretary of Sigma, Phi Beta Sigma, been in fraternity land 37 years, had heard nothing of the Boule ever, though its founder had been a member. And so, as we began to talk about it with other people around the country, we began to realize that people didn't know about it. How you doing, Brother Warren? And not knowing that people didn't know about it, we just assumed that it was incidental, that everybody must know something about it, and that it was not mysterious or connected to all of those other things we had previously been talking about, like Cecil Rhodes and Baron de Rothschild and all the Halls of Haters, the ADL and the Diamond Jewish Connection. We've been talking about the Trilateral Commission, who is responsible for this economic summit that you'll be seeing on TV the next 3-4 days. You need to know that. Anybody? Carl Rowan came on the radio right here in LA. And my friends jumped him, because we jumping them in every city. And when they jumped him, he said the Trilateral Commission ain't done nothing. But the Trilateral Commission went to the president and had him set up the annual economic summit starting in '76, France. So when you listen to how your destiny of your country, they say, rides on that meeting, you wonder how Rowan could make such an allegation, but knowing as a Boule in Washington, D.C. Epsilon chapter, his goal is to never speak of the high, white, and mighty, whom the Boule, all 3,300, are sworn to protect. Yes, these brothers that we are pushing up against the wall have taken a sworn oath that they will never expose the whites that they know actually run the world. They, in ambition and in deference to liberation and respect of the race, have agreed to maintain the status quo of white supremacy, which has two levels of white supremacy: a local, limited, parochial side, the Ku Klux Klan, the Reardons, the Kenny Hans, the local clans, but has a powerful, more mighty upper crust, which probably would include Occidental Petroleum and Arco and Exxon and Mobil Oil and the Rockefeller Foundation and other influential, wealthy families and institutions. So what we're talking about is, why haven't you heard of those people who are in the secret society? It's because the people who you look to, who you would most suspect would tell you, have sworn that they never will. And because of that, that leaves the sub-leadership, the other group of people that you like a lot, that leaves them to tell you, the heads of the various organizations as you know them. But if you've listened to them, they have never said of these black men, for that they did not know. Which means that Malcolm, we know, knew of these men. We know Marcus Garvey knew of these men, because their crowning, most outstanding achievement was the physical elimination and castigation of Marcus Garvey, and the insistence and the climate setting that brought about the death of Malcolm X.